All right, everyone get ready because today we are going deep on a study. And this one is really changing how we think about babies and language
Yeah.
and learning languages.
Oh, it's really exciting research.
Yeah.
It really kind of like turns everything we thought we knew on its head.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
So researchers from the University of Potsdam, they went to Accra, Ghana.
Okay.
And Accra is like a super multilingual city.
Yeah.
And they studied 121 babies,
Wow.
all between 3 and 12 months old.
Oh my gosh, tiny babies.
Tiny little babies.
Okay, so I'm picturing a bustling city, lots of energy.
Yeah.
But what makes these babies so unique?
Well, these babies are exposed to so many languages every single day. Like we're talking between 2 and 6.
Wait, 2 to 6. At that age, I'm still trying to remember what I had for breakfast.
Right. It really kind of throws that whole one caregiver, one language thing out the window.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So it's not just like they're overhearing these languages, like they're actually having conversations in these different languages.
It's not just passive exposure. They're interacting with multiple caregivers.
Yeah.
Family members, neighbors, relatives,
Wow.
all speaking different languages directly to them.
So it's really like a full immersion experience.
Totally. And the way that families live in Accra really plays a big role in this.
Okay.
They often live in these compound buildings,
Okay.
which have these shared courtyards, and it creates like this natural language-rich environment.
Oh, that's so different from like the typical nuclear family setup you see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a more communal living style. So these babies are surrounded by this symphony of languages just
Yeah.
from day one.
Okay, so we've got all these babies hearing all these languages, but are they learning them all in the same way?
That's a really great question.
Okay.
And the study differentiates between direct and indirect language input.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more about that.
So think of direct input as like face-to-face interaction, like a parent speaking akan or go or you.
Yeah.
Those are local Ghanaian languages
Right.
directly to their child.
That's
how they're
it.
picking up those local languages.
So it's that one-on-one personal engagement. Okay, so then what about indirect input?
Indirect input is more about exposure through things like media or official communication.
Okay.
So think TV, radio, maybe like public service announcements.
Yeah.
And that's mainly how they are learning English.
Oh, that's interesting. So the local languages are learned through these like direct personal interactions.
Right.
And then English is kind of coming in through the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So basically, how we think about language learning here in the West
Yeah,
might not really be how it works in other parts of the world.
exactly. It's not the global norm. This research really challenges that.
So this is like a huge wake-up call. Like we need to rethink some of our assumptions about babies and language learning.
Definitely. This study is like a call for a broader perspective,
Yeah.
a more inclusive perspective on language acquisition,
Yeah.
one that embraces all the diversity of languages we have across the world.
Okay. Yeah. That's a really powerful message.
It is.
Okay. So we've laid the groundwork here. We've got these babies in Accra growing up, hearing all these different languages.
Yeah,
And it seems like they're thriving.
right.
So I have to ask, is there any downside to this? Like, is there any risk that all this linguistic input could overwhelm them?
You know, that's something a lot of people wonder about, but it's actually a common misconception.
Really?
The research is showing us that these kids are not only keeping up,
Okay.
they're often excelling.
So they're not struggling to sort it all out.
Not at all.
Mm.
Studies show these multilingual kids are hitting their developmental language milestones right on schedule.
Okay.
Sometimes they're even surpassing monolingual children in certain areas.
Wow. So they're not just keeping up. They're like ahead of the game in some ways.
Exactly. It's pretty remarkable.
Okay. So it can't just be vocabulary, right?
Mhm.
Like, what about their other cognitive skills?
You're right. Early exposure to multiple languages, it seems to like boost a bunch of different cognitive abilities.
Like, what? Give me an example.
Well, okay, imagine a child playing with a puzzle.
Yeah.
They try a piece, it doesn't fit, so they have to adjust, think differently, try a new approach. Multilingual children, they're often quicker at making these mental shifts. They show greater cognitive flexibility.
So it's like their brains are becoming more adaptable.
Exactly. And this adaptability, it extends to problem solving too.
Okay.
Multilingual children, they often come up with more creative solutions.
Yeah.
They're thinking outside the box because they've been trained to navigate these different linguistic systems.
I can see how that would be a huge advantage, not just as a kid, but like throughout life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's executive function, which is basically the brain's control center,
Okay.
and it manages things like attention, planning, and impulse control. Studies show that multilingual children often do better in tasks that measure those skills compared to monolingual kids.
So not only are they learning all these languages, but they're getting this cognitive workout in the process.
Yeah, precisely. Their brains are developing these valuable skills that'll benefit them in so many ways.
This is fascinating. Okay, but what about the long-term impact? How does this early multilingualism shape their lives down the road?
That's a great question, and one that researchers are looking into.
Okay.
It's not just about academic success, though it can play a role in that.
Yeah.
It's also about social connections, cultural understanding, and career opportunities.
So it's more than just language. It's like it opens up a whole world of possibilities.
Exactly. Imagine a child who grows up effortlessly switching between languages, understanding different cultural perspectives, and navigating diverse social situations.
Yeah.
These are skills that are so valuable in our world today.
Yeah. It's like they're developing this global mindset from a very young age.
I love that. They're developing this sense of openness and adaptability that will help them throughout their lives.
This whole deep dive is really making me rethink how we approach language learning as a society. Are we doing enough to embrace and nurture multilingualism?
That's an important question. I think there's a huge opportunity to create learning environments that celebrate linguistic diversity.
Instead of sticking with that one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. We need to move beyond this idea that learning multiple languages is a burden
Yeah.
or a detriment.
And recognize it as the incredible asset that it is.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the cognitive, social, and cultural benefits of multilingualism
Yeah.
and creating spaces where children feel encouraged to embrace their linguistic heritage.
Okay, so it's pretty amazing to think about these babies in Accra just like effortlessly juggling all these languages.
It is.
But how do their little brains make sense of it all?
Yeah, well, that's where the magic of the infant brain comes in.
Okay.
They have this incredible ability to absorb and process information, especially when it comes to language.
Yeah.
It's like their brains are made for it.
So are they like learning these languages all at the same time? Or are they keeping them separate somehow?
It's not really like a simple yes or no answer. Research suggests that babies actually start by developing kind of like a universal language system.
Okay.
They're picking up on patterns and sounds from every language they're exposed to,
Okay.
almost like they're building this giant linguistic database.
A linguistic database. That's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
So when does this database start to get organized?
As they grow, they start to differentiate between the languages. They figure out like which sounds and words belong to which language.
So it's like their brains are running these super complex algorithms to decode the linguistic world around them.
Right, exactly.
But is there any worry that this might be too much for a little brain that's still developing?
It's a good question. But actually, the research shows that this early exposure to multiple languages doesn't hold them back.
Okay.
In fact, they often hit their language milestones at about the same pace as monolingual kids.
So all those worries about kids getting confused or falling behind
Yeah.
are basically unfounded.
It seems that way. It's more likely to help them than hurt them.
That's good news for parents who are thinking about raising their kids with multiple languages.
Yeah, it really challenges that old way of thinking.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening. It feels like we need to totally shift our perspective.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing multilingualism as a challenge, we should be seeing it as a superpower.
I like that. Yeah, it's about recognizing all those amazing cognitive and social advantages that come with understanding and speaking multiple languages
Yeah.
and being able to experience different cultures.
So as we wrap up here, what's the big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
The biggest thing to remember, I think, is this. The human brain is wired for language.
Okay.
And that wiring, it's even more powerful when it's exposed to many languages from an early age.
Yeah, it's about creating environments where kids feel comfortable and excited to explore language.
Yes.
Where they can celebrate their own linguistic heritage and find new ways to connect with the world.
Exactly. Celebrating diversity, questioning what we think we know, and realizing the full potential of language.
Well, this has been an incredible journey into the world of multilingual babies.
It has.
And it feels like we've only just begun to explore this topic.
Yeah, there's so much more to learn.
But hopefully this deep dive has got our listeners thinking about their own relationship with language
Yeah.
and all the amazing possibilities that come with multilingualism. It's a good reminder that every child has the potential to be a citizen of the world, to really understand and connect with others.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep your minds curious and your ears open to all these beautiful languages all around us.